Hey, Earthlings, we're live. So we're back. So I'm.
Well,
I thought we could call this one the Ronnie Lee Show. Ronnie,
I'm just about live at my age. You're just clinging on.
Whoa! Hang on, I got to get the sound off this. The Ronnie Lee Show. Go away.
Oh,
right. Oh, Ronnie, what are we going to do, lads?
What are we going to do? Well, I thought you knew that, Roger.
Oh, no.
Right,
I've got a page of notes. It's completely blank.
The night show is for a wonderful sanctuary called Animals in Need in Northamptonshire. They got like hundreds of animals, all different types. Really, they've even got a big giant tortoise there, and they got sheep, and they've got pigs, and they've got dogs and cats, and all sorts, smaller animals, wildlife. They rescue everything. They've just rescued a load of hens from like a battery farm that's closing down, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But I'm hoping everyone's going to enjoy tonight's performance. Roger's going to star in this. Roger's going to star in this as well, because this is when he gets put in jail. Well, better late than never, eh, Rog? And we just hope people enjoy the show, and there'll be hopefully a Ronnie Lee show. I think Roger's what are you trying to do? Bribe me or something? Are you, Roger, for that? Hopefully there'll be links to the Animals in Need website where people can easily make a who thought that prison was such a laugh. Well, hopefully, people will think that there are laughs to be had in prison, while they listen to the show. But anyway, we're going to, later in the show, we're going to have some pictures and video from the sanctuary. So people saying hello, Bernie there, and Terry as well in the chat. Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming along.
You're forgiven. We're only gone for 2 minutes already, so don't worry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But anyway, this is the third show in the series of Jailhouse Vegans, and so far it's just about my jail experience, and this one's going to include Roger as well. And we're on to really my third prison sentence, and that began in March 1986. And what happened is I was the press officer for the Animal Liberation Front. And I also used to dabble in a bit of direct action as well at the same time. But we had a press office, a little office in Hammersmith in West London, and myself
near the Odeon, wasn't it, Ronnie? The famous.
It was quite near the Odeon. It was on the big round. It was on the big roundabout. Was it Hammersmith Circus or something? There's a big roundabout there. It was opposite the underground station. The underground station in the middle of the roundabout, and our this kind of old office block. We were right at the top. Was across the road from the underground station, and I got arrested at my bedsitter that I lived in up the road, and then they raided the office, took a load of stuff away. There'd been some people in Sheffield. They invented these like timed incendiary devices to use in a campaign against stores that had fur departments, and basically what they were doing was planting these incendiary devices in the furniture department of the stores. And the idea was to create a small fire and set the sprinklers off to do like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage to the store, in an effort to force these stores to get rid of their fur departments. In actual fact, it was a campaign that was highly successful. But they made the mistake.
People on that point, though, Ronnie, people don't realise that the idea was to create water damage, not to create a fire.
It was to create water damage, yes. Yeah. I mean, there were times when there was big fires, but that was because the department stores hadn't properly maintained their sprinkler systems. It was the intention was never to really cause damage by fire; it was to cause damage by water by setting sprinklers. And he did Rackham's in Sheffield, which was they made the mistake. They lived in Sheffield. They made the mistake. shitting on their own doorstep. They the first thing they did was attack their local department store, and I think it caused hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage to the store. And subsequently, I think that store they got rid of their fur department. But it got the local police interested. What they did was employed the drug squad, because the drug squad were the department of the local police there that had expertise in surveillance. And they used surveillance and arrested some people. And then eventually that led to them coming down to London
They used their top secret listening device.
They did.
That's a time when the court went into camera. And what that means is that everybody gets thrown out except for the defendants and some of the representatives and stuff, barristers and stuff. And then I think it was an MOD guy. The judge was asking him about this device, and he was saying it's top secret, we can't tell you. And the judge threatened the guy. He said, "Well, you've got to answer my questions, otherwise I'll do you for contempt of court and everything." So he got a bit shirty between the two of them.
Because the judge we had at the trial, I mean, we're jumping forward a bit now to the trial. The judge we had at the trial was a Nazi. He'd been a member of the British Union of Fascists, hadn't he? Yeah. This guy, it was Mosley follower, yeah. But anyway, we're going to come to that later. And myself and Vivian Smith, who we shared an office. I ran the ALF press office, and she was the editor of the ALF supporters group newsletter. And we shared an office, so we both got arrested. I was refused bail, surprisingly enough, and ended up being remanded to Hull prison. And every week I'd be taken to the magistrates' court to apply for bail, and I'd be refused bail every time. But on one occasion, in the early part of it, I went in the magistrates' court. I went in the courtroom, and the magistrate shouted at me, "Mr. Lee, will you stand up in court?" But the thing was, I was already standing up. And then another time, this barrister, because some of these barristers, they think they're like on, some TV program or something like, and they're kind of very theatrical. And this barrister was like giving these reasons. He was a prosecution barrister, giving all these reasons why I shouldn't get bail. He's going, "Mr. Lee did this, Mr. Lee did that." So, and then he turned round and looked at me very theatrically, and he said, "And your worship," speaking to the magistrate, he said, "Mr. Lee is a very dangerous man." And he come right up to me. I just put my finger like that right in his face, this barrister. Didn't get bail, of course. Never got bail. I always used to abuse the magistrate. When they refused me bail, I used to have a go at them, like, saying, "Oh, yeah," call them all sorts. So it's probably not surprising I never got bail. But my barrister came to see me in prison, and I went to see him, like in the visitor room. He said, "Oh, Mr. Lee," said, "this is this is a very serious case, very, very serious." He said, "I've had a quick look at the papers." He said, "I think you're facing life imprisonment." He said, I thought, "Oh, that's great, thank you very much." Anyway, so the next week he came to see me again. I went to see him, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry I probably worried you last time saying about the life imprisonment." He said, "I've looked at the papers again," and he said, it's not anywhere near as bad as that." I thought, "Oh, well, that's good." He said, "I think you're looking at 15 years. And I thought, well, that's probably slightly better than life imprisonment, but it's nothing to be like happy about particularly. You see, so most of the time I was actually expecting that I'd get 15 years. Now on the hello hooligans. Oh no, that should be aimed at Roger really rather than me. But the thing was at the time, and Roger remember this as well, that you could, I mean, on previous prison sentences, it'd been like you hadn't been entitled really to have a vegan diet. I got a vegan diet first of all through going on hunger strike on my first prison sentence, and there was no entitlement to it. I think they used to give it to me because they thought, I'd obviously cause trouble if I didn't get one. But by the time it come to the third sentence, because of course this was like 86. I mean, I hadn't been sentenced yet, but I was in prison on remand in 86. And my last sentence, I'd last come out of prison in 77, I think. So it was like almost 10 years, 9 years. And the situation had changed. The Vegan Society had done a lot of work, campaigning work with prisons. And now they had this rule that you were entitled to a vegan diet as long as you were a Vegan Society member, and you could produce a Vegan Society membership card. So it was this red card. You carried the red card, you see. And of course, the vegan food was better than the other food. I mean, obviously, vegan food's better anyway, but because it was cooked, prison food tends to get cooked in these huge batches, huge amounts, you see. So of course the quality goes down because of that. Because the vegan food was cooked in smaller amounts, it was nicer. And also you used to get these goodie bags of stuff like you'd get peanut butter, and you get soya milk, and you get like yeast extract, and you get peanuts and raisins and all these things. And this was something that could be traded in prison, could be sold for tobacco, which was the currency in prison. And, the genuine vegans wouldn't do this. But, of course, a lot of the ordinary non-vegan prisoners caught on, we can become vegan, we'll get nicer food, and we can get one of these goodie bags, sell it for tobacco, you see. So there was all these, like, ordinary prisoners, ordinary criminals joining the Vegan Society. So they had a card, so I'm vegan, you see. So you'd have some bloke with a broken nose, big scar, yeah, I'm vegan. They go, no, you're not. They go, well, I've got the card here, you've got to give me vegan diet and that. And it was at that time that the Vegan Society actually became the biggest criminal organisation in the world. There are more criminals in the Vegan Society than any other organisation, even the mafia, Vegan Society. Biggest criminal because of all these crims that joined, so that they could get the card and get the vegan diet. But it was during this time on remand that there's Tony Tophin, my good mate, great vegan campaigner, and anyway, it was at this time that I had the great pleasure of sharing a cell with Roger. So perhaps Roger, you can tell people a little bit about the time we shared a cell together and what fun it was.
Yeah, it was delightful. It was brilliant. I do remember the fact that because we were on remand, we were going to Sheffield. It was really weird, wasn't it? Because like from the prison, you would get into a coach. It was all kind of, you were handcuffed and everything, but it was kind of just like a normal kind of trip down. But on the way back, you were always in one of those kind of, human battery cages, which is, which is interesting really, because I always notice, even now, I notice them on the street. I don't know if you ever do, Ronnie, but these big white and there's little black windows right at the top. Yeah. And you always notice them. And, oh, blimey, it's one of those, because they're really difficult, because you get into the van and there's all these cages, right? And each person locked into a cage, and there's a little kind of ledge where you sit and everything. It's really uncomfortable. It rocks about and on all that. So on the way, it's always quite comfortable. On the way back, it's bad. But then we had the problem of getting back in the same cell, didn't we, Ronnie? So you came up with your bribery scheme.
Yeah, the bribe, because what it was is there's a prisoner's in charge of, it's like a trustee type prisoner, that's got this special job of allocating people what cells people are going to go in. And normally when you came back from court, you would just randomly put in any cell, because it was like, I think in Hull it was 2 to a cell, and you would just randomly put in anywhere where there was a space. You see, but of course Roger and I wanted to be in a cell together, so we need a cell that was empty and put the two of us in there. So we'd always have to bribe this guy, give him tobacco, say, here's half ounce tobacco, can you put us in the same cell? And this guy I noticed he had all this tobacco sort of piled up where everyone was bribing him to put in cells with their mates, like a total absolute fortune in tobacco. Not much good for his lungs, of course. But we used to end up together in the same cell. Roger was always wanting to escape, weren't you, Roger? Thought it was our duty to escape.
Yeah. I was trying to escape from you at half the time. Not wanting
He'd been watching too many television films about,
well, you're always taking the mickey out of me. For example, you told everybody that I made a cardboard telephone, and I would pick it up and go, "Hey, left press office," you know.
Yeah, well, no, but it's true. He did. Like, I was trying to say, Roger, you know, you're in prison now, Roger. You're not in the real world. You know, you've got to stop. You've got to stop that. But we rescued a pigeon, didn't we?
Yeah, that was a weird one, because I was thinking about that, and I think we were on the concrete bit. There was a concrete bit of the exercise yard, and then there was a bit of a kind of grassy bit, and the injured pigeon was on there. And so we kept going round, and we were looking, and then one time we were looking at the guards and everything, and they seemed to be not looking at us. So you rushed over and got the pigeon, put them under your jumper. And then somehow we managed to get a box. I can't remember where we got the box from.
We got a cardboard box from. Yeah. We probably had to give someone tobacco to get a cardboard box, I would imagine.
Probably did, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a cardboard box. That's half ounce tobacco for that.
And then we kept her for about. She was in the cell for maybe 5 days, week.
Yeah, we had her a while. We were feeding.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got. We must have had to bribe someone to get the food for her. We somehow managed to feed her. Must have been corn or some oats or something.
And then of course the screws sussed it out, and you can't keep vermin in your cell and all that bullshit, right? And so
I said, well, I said, I already had one in there, so what?
Yeah. What's the difference? This one's just got wings. Yeah.
I said, no. I said, that's not vermin. It's Roger.
But that's when you threaten the vice governor, because I think we ended up with a vice governor in the cell, and they were going, look, you just can't have a pigeon in your cell. And you said, okay, well, unless you want a big stink in the press, you're going to have to, you know, take this bird, not kill her, and take her to a sanctuary. And they agreed to do that eventually. But of course,
hopefully they did. That was beyond our control.
Hopefully
they did. Yeah, they did do that. I mean, this is the problem. You can't really follow up on these things. But we did the very best we could, to be quite honest, with managing to kind of to actually sort that situation out. But like Roger, you had to go because there was a few of us in, because there was a number of us from the same court case that had been arrested. You know, all the lads from Sheffield were all in on remand with us as well. So there was probably about half a dozen of us, wasn't there? Half a dozen of us all in Hull at one time. I think there was 4 lads from Sheffield, and there was 2 of us, and we were all together. Bit of a vegan community, and we used to get visits from the local animal rights group in Hull, and they used to come and you know, at that time, and they don't allow it now, but at that time, if you were a remand prisoner, you could have certain food brought in. You could have fruit brought in, and
it was one visit a day, wasn't it? You could get a visit.
You'd have a visit every day. Yeah. But of course, in a way, like prisoners, they don't allow that anymore, and like prisoners fucked it up themselves, really, because they were like getting people to inject drugs into the fruit and stuff, you know. So it's a way of smuggling drugs in. So all that since then, all that's been stopped. But at the time, you could get all this stuff brought in. But Roger left us for a while, didn't you, Roger? Because Roger had to go back to Liverpool to face trial.
Yeah. Before I tell you that one, do you remember the guy in Hull, the badger baiter guy? Do you remember him? He was always having a go at us, and he was on about how badgers were really dangerous and they got to be killed and all this kind of stuff. And so we would always be, there was like you know, like where you got your food, you kind of went around in a bit of a square, and he was always giving it, you know, kind of, oh, you know, you vegans and all that. And I used to get the we both got the Guardian sent in, you know, because you could get newspapers and everything. And so I had the Guardian with me, and I go to this guy, you're right about the badgers, they're really dangerous, you know, because it just says in here that a group of badgers, they've developed a nuclear weapon. And he goes, well, there you are then. You see, they are dangerous.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. They could do with a nuclear weapon. Well, one that just kind of was very specific in who it killed, really.
Yeah, it could be good.
But you went to Liverpool because you were framed up for something, weren't you? And had to go.
I was stitched up again because I think I was only one of the few defendants who didn't have a criminal record, and of course that's not so great when it comes to the big trial. What they really need is for everybody to have previous, because then you can't call into question the veracity of the police, because as soon as you do that, that allows them then to tell the jury about your previous convictions. Whereas if you don't make that kind of allegation, they can't tell the jury, who are supposed to be legal virgins, that used to be called, right? They're not allowed to tell the jury about your previous unless you provoke it. And so they needed, I suppose, for me to have a conviction before the main trial. And so I got hauled back to Liverpool, really kind of weird situation. And I was charged with smashing some estate agent windows because there were circus posters in them, right? And the weird thing about it was that there was a guy from the Navy, this Navy guy, he even had his kind of suit on and everything, and his uniform, I should say. And he gave evidence against me, and he was just totally lying. He said that he saw me driving a car, and I wasn't even there. And so it was a total stitch up. So I've always thought to this day, what did the cops have on this guy that he kind of gave evidence? Yeah, he gave evidence against me. And,
must have caught him in some compromising situation, probably.
I guess so, but he was. I mean, I suppose he was a very respectable citizen from the jury's point of view. Because he was there with his uniform and all that, and it's his word against mine and all that kind of stuff, right? But I mean, I just literally wasn't there. And so because I'd gone there from Hull, I was in a kind of dock with this little side room, where the prison officer was and everything. And I just kind of lost my temper really, and I just thought, I'm not having any more of this. And I walked out of the dock back into this room, and this prison officer started panicking. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to go out. You got to go back out. And I said, I'm not going. They're just lying. And another weird thing for me is I was thinking, look, all these people, they're judging me and everything, and none of these people know me. Every police officer in the world would arrest you and everything on the say so of people and all. And nobody kind of knows me. And it's all a bit weird to me. And I was just going, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So after about 10 minutes. I eventually went back because they said, well, look, we can't continue until you go back in the dock. So I went back in the dock, and I said to the judge, I said, who the hell do you think you are judging me? I said, you sat there, with your stupid wig and your Batman cape. And, and so he gave me 14 days for contempt of court for saying.
Did he go like that? Did he punch like that with 14 days?
Holy smoke, Roger.
But it's worth it. It's worth it, though.
And the funniest thing then, right, is that I ended up then in Liverpool prison. And what you do is you have to change into a blue uniform because I was then convicted. I was a convicted prisoner. So you have to get out of your brown uniform and get into a blue one. So then I ended up in Liverpool. And as a punishment for contempt of court, I was put in to a cell with a trans woman. And it's an absolutely fascinating experience. It was really, really weird. Like, for example, she had a whole box of love letters that the other cons had sent to her and everything. And of course, when she was out on the landing, because she was kind of like, stick with me, kind of saying, I'll show you what to do and all that. She was getting all kinds of abuse off these guys. And yet they were also sending her love letters and everything. It was really
like secretly.
Yeah.
Strange, very, very odd.
Like a little shoebox full of them, literally full of all these letters,
Yeah. It's very, very, very strange. But then you did come back to Hull, didn't you? When you
so then when my sentence finished, because I got 2 weeks and 14 days because of the contempt. So then when that finished, I then come back to Hull, get out of your blue uniform and get back into the brown one, and then presumably I must have found my way back to. Did I end up in a cell with you again?
You may have done, yeah. But at the time, you had like loads of black hair, didn't you, at the time? I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know whether you did you have a big beard as well?
Not a big one, but it's a beard,
Because
yeah.
I think we all used to, I don't know whether you noticed, we all used to call you the monster, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Because you had all this hair and that, like a
All
little,
right.
got a big beard and thing, you know.
You're only jealous, Ronnie. You're only jealous. Come on.
Oh yeah, because I did have hair before I started sharing a cell with you. But 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 I mean, then you got bail, didn't you? Eventually, you did get bail, and you were sort of, and then I ended up having to share a cell with various other people, and I remember sharing a cell with, there was these two guys. They'd broken into a shoe shop. They burgled a shoe. They were in for burgling a shoe shop, like these guys, like the top criminals of Hull. And like I was saying, we used to go on these visits, and we'd all go at the same time on a visit. There's myself and the four other lads now, because Roger wasn't there. And the animal rights people from Hull would come and see us, and they'd bring us a bag of fruit. And we all had this bag of fruit, going back in, to the cells and that, going through the bag, and they'd given us, they'd given us a handsome monster. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Oh, you're talking about Roger. All right. Yeah. Anyway, but they'd given us each a lemon. You see. And the other lad said, "Oh, I've got a lemon. I don't want a lemon. What am I going to do with a lemon? I'm not going to eat a lemon." I said, "Give them all to me. I'll have all the lemons." You see. So I went back in the cell, and these guys said, "What you got in your bag? What you got there?" And that. And I said, "Oh, I've got all this fruit." And I tipped it out. And they said, "Oh, you got lemons. What are you going to do with lemons?" I said, "I'm going to eat." "Oh, I eat them." "No, you don't. You can't eat a lemon." I said, "I can." I peeled this lemon and started eating it. They couldn't stand it. They were climbing up the walls. They go, "No, I can't watch you eat a lemon." And they were right. I get these guys that burgled the shoe shop. They couldn't watch me eat a lemon. But I ate all the lemons. I did. Like they were desperate to get out of the cell.
See, everybody else made some hooch with that.
Another occasion, there was this. I shared a cell with this Pakistani guy. He was a business guy, and he was done for. It was some kind of fraud or something. What they were doing was allegedly someone was stealing expensive cars, and he was meant to be cutting them up in bits and exporting them out. The parts, exporting them out. Somewhere, maybe to Pakistan or somewhere. This is what was alleged against him. He said he was innocent. And what's this? No scurvy. No, lemons are really good for scurvy, aren't they? Brilliant. Yeah. I've never had scurvy because of that. Anyway, so we shared a cell together, and he was a very bright chap. I got on really well with him. We used to play chess every night and stuff. And then a young Pakistani lad, got put in the jail, and he was in for forging a cheque or something quite minor, but he didn't get bail. And he didn't know, he was young and he didn't know what was going on. He used to wander about all over the place. The prison officers used to be shouting at him, you're going the wrong way and you should be locked in your cell and all that kind of thing. And we kind of helped him when we showed him the ropes, and he had no money because on the remand, you can spend your own money and you can get a few extra treats and that. So we helped him out. We gave him a bit of thing and helped him. And they all used to call it because he was like.
Before this goes, Ronnie. Oh, sorry, wrong one. There. So 10 years for you, Ronnie, wasn't it?
How long have you been in prison? I eventually got a 10-year sentence, but that was like we're coming up to when that happened.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, got 4, so.
Roger got 4, because he's only a minor character in the whole thing. But everyone called this young lad the Elephant Boy because he was like a chubby little Pakistani guy. That was his nickname. The other cons just called him the Elephant Boy. And anyway, at the time I smoked. I gave up smoking a bit later on my prison sentence, but at the time I smoked, and the chap I was in the cell with smoked. And one day this elephant guy, it was on association, the cells were open. He came in our cell and he had a load of roll-ups. He said, "There you are, lads." He said, "Thank you so much for helping me. Here's all these roll-ups for you." And we thought, oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much. That's like really kind. We didn't expect anything, and we were smoking these roll-ups and playing chess. Like, oh, what a kind gesture, smoking all these roll-ups. The next day we were out on exercise. One of these other cons came up to me and said, that elephant boy, he doesn't smoke, does he? And he didn't smoke, this lad. And I said, no, he doesn't smoke. And this lad said, that's strange, because he said, yesterday on exercise, I saw him picking up loads of dog ends. So I kind of put two and two together about what it was we'd been smoking. He'd picked up dog ends and made a load of roll-ups and given them to us. And we've been smoking these things, which a lot of prisoners do actually in prison. They do swoop, call them swoopers.
Yeah,
they swoop and they roll them up. And there was the other kind of amusing thing, because I'll tell. I think one more funny thing about the prison at Hull, because we're going to have to talk a bit about the sanctuary in a minute, was that you get these guys in prison that sing. They're usually, older blokes that are kind of been in and out of prison all their life. And there was one in Hull that used to sing. On the exercise yard, we'd all be going round and he'd sing in the middle. I'd be singing Delilah and things. It's all Tom Jones things, forgive me, Delilah, and all that, singing, right? And then this other old bloke got put in the prison, and he was a singer as well. Both of them used to sing, and like one used to sing at one end of the exercise yard, and the one used to sing. And in the end, they ended up fighting. They fought for who was going to be the one that sang. They had a big fight in the middle of the exercise yard about, I'm the one, I'm singing here, and the other one says, no, I'm going to be the one singing. And they fought each other, and all the prison officers had to split them up. But anyway, so
they're fighting over the singing rights.
Fighting over the singing rights to sing Tom Jones songs and shit, to entertain us all as we were walking round in a circle. So that was far more amusing than the singing, the fight. It was far amusing. Far amusing than listen to them sing all the time. Yeah, anyway, so
look at that, Ronnie.
What's dog
in
ends?
Ireland, they don't know what dog ends are. So
dog end. What it is someone smokes a.
There you go. There you go. That's it.
Dog ends. Discarded ends of fags when they've been smoked. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Discarded end of fags. Yeah, the worst possible, containing all the very worst things that all get accumulated in that.
And a bit of saliva.
And a bit of saliva and everything, But, later on in this series, whether it's today or not, probably not, there's going to be another very funny story about dog ends. So probably tune in next time to hear that one. Yeah. But anyway, so
yeah, sanctuary time.
Sanctuary time. Yeah.
But funny thing is, Ronnie, I don't remember you smoking. That's weird, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I did. I did because I was. When did I give up? I gave up smoking. I think I gave up smoking after I was. No, I did go. I did give up smoking on remand, but it was. Maybe I was in the cell with that guy before I was in the cell with you. I don't know. I did give up. No,
but I mean, I'd met you loads of times when we're out before all that.
Yeah, I used to only smoke. I didn't used to smoke a lot. But I did used to smoke a bit at the time. Yeah.
So you're even surprising Tom Reagan's brother there as well.
Never known Ronnie to be a smoker. Well, of course. I gave up. That's years ago. I gave up that. In 70. Sorry, 80 would have been 80. Would have been 86, I suppose. So,
right, sanctuaries. Roy's sat there thinking, when are you two going to get on with it?
I'm enjoying it. You carry on.
No, we want to see the animals.
So, Roy, animals in need. How many residents do you have?
Roughly about 700.
Wow, that's amazing. And do you know them all by name?
Not a clue.
That'd be quite.
Have they got a name for you though, Roy?
They probably have.
Yeah, yeah it's probably respectful. Oh, that's Roy. They'll say.
No, it's probably not respectful.
Definitely not.
Especially when he's late with the food. It won't be respectful then. Yeah. Where's that bastard?
So we've got a bit of a presentation, folks, and we're going to start off with your newest residents, Roy. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll show you the people concerned.
Okay, basically, we were asked a couple of weeks ago whether we could help with a hen rescue. Didn't know much about it, just knew where we were going to go. Literally, we were given an address to go to, and the farm is going to be, the unit is going to be closed down. I think there's about 1,700 hens in there. We took 250. Somebody else took another 140, and I think they're going back in a few more weeks' time to get the rest of them.
All right, here we go then.
Of course, he's escaping with filming.
The biggest trouble of having them is that they're not allowed to come out until the 1st of April.
Come on, ladies.
Now, the mystery about that, Roy, is that for battery chickens, they're not in bad nick. And
They're
so,
not.
yeah, so does that mean that the farm closed when not long after getting a new lot in then, I suppose?
I don't know what's happened is that I know they're going in the farm. I've got told today that the farm, they're going back into the farm. When they take 500 out in a couple of weeks' time, the farmers are moving them into another unit so we can count what's left and so we can go and get them.
Yeah, and were they debeaked?
No.
All right, that's interesting, isn't it? So
yeah.
So it wasn't it wasn't one of the worst ones, as it were, of the battery.
It's one of the better ones I've seen.
Yeah, and do you think it was economics then that closed them down?
I don't know. There's, on the basis of it is where he is, there's a big housing estate built dead opposite him. So I don't know whether that had anything to do with it or not.
Oh, bringing down the price of houses or something.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few stills coming up now. Let me just run this on and then I'll stop it. Okay, so who are these chaps?
I don't know the names at all. None of them. All I can tell you.
I'm going to ask you every time we change. I'm going to ask you what the name is.
He'll start making up
names. They've only been in about a week. I think we've got something like about 15 guinea pigs in at the moment, and they've all come in within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Are you one of those? I'm saying lucky in inverted commas. Are you one of those lucky sanctuaries that you've got space that you don't have to refuse anyone? Because one of the most heartbreaking. We
haven't got enough space.
No, but
we're trying to buy.
Do you have to say no to sometimes then?
Yes, definitely. Especially to farm animals, which I hate doing.
Big, yeah.
But we just don't have the land for it. We've got 25 sheep, 5 pigs, horse, pony, 250 plus hens. We've got 5 goats. I think that's
and the tortoise. You didn't tell me
Sherman, yeah.
Yeah, didn't tell me about the tortoise because they're very old-fashioned. They're still wearing shell suits, aren't they? So,
is he? That's the one I do know. He's called Sherman because it's more like a bloody tank when he goes through anywhere.
Oh, okay.
He's great, Sherman. I've seen Sherman. It's wonderful.
So what's this big dog called?
What?
The big dog.
What's this big dog called?
That's George.
I see you do know some names after all. Yeah,
I know that one.
We've got a late arrival here. Let's just put that up for a second. Oh no, wrong
turkeys.
One. Yeah, we've got 2.
It keeps moving. It keeps moving on me. There we go.
Oh, there's Maz. Hello, Maz.
Yeah, hi, Maz.
We've got 2 turkeys. One's called Violet and the other one's called Alf.
Right, and as I said in the advert, this is some swans looking after some humans here.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it was an oil spillage at a local leisure park. Somebody had broke in, tried to nick the diesel, and it all leaked out into the lakes there. And we were asked to go in and get what we could out. I think we lost about 6 swans, but some of the smaller birds never made it at all.
I'd have loved to have been there to see them all released, because that must have been brilliant.
It was, yeah. They've got a guy on the park who used to be into animal welfare, and he goes round and checks everything now on a daily basis.
Okay, coming up, I think we might have Alf next. No.
You got whatever is a
controversy.
That is definitely a ferret, not a polecat, and nothing else.
And his name or her name, Roy, is
Pass.
Ferret.
Pass.
Ferret. There's Alf.
Alf.
That is Alf.
No, Alf. Yeah, Alf. Magnificent. He is absolutely magnificent.
And if you're male, he'll beat the crap out of you.
I know. I've got the scars. I've got the scars on me from him.
The girls can go in with him. The girls can go in with him, and he's absolutely fine. Bloke goes in with him, you're going to get a good beat.
Well, he thinks you're after the hens, because he likes the hens, doesn't he? He's friendly with the hens and that, and he, he's great with himself.
Sandra Higgins from the Eden Sanctuary in Ireland, she's got a film out called "You've Never Lived Until You've Hugged a Turkey," but I don't suppose many males would be able to hug Alf, I wouldn't think then. Yeah.
With the Violet, the other one is the female one is completely opposite. As lovely as anything. You could go in and sit with her, and she'll virtually sit on your lap.
Very good. He's very magnificent, isn't he?
He's lovely, Alf.
That's Colin. I don't know what the hen is, but that's Colin the cockerel.
Colin the cockerel.
Yeah.
And if you upset the girls he's in with, he has a go at you as well.
So it's quite dangerous, really, your sanctuary, then, isn't it? Really, for male visitors, male visitors, not like.
And that's not just from the animals.
No. Well, I've got a funny story about the sanctuary, because there was like an open day. Well, there's quite a few open days, isn't there, or a vegan festival? Yeah. And the last one I was at, I was walking around, and there was a young woman giving out vegan contraceptives, vegan Durex. She was walking around with like one of these cinema trays, kind of giving these out.
She was indeed.
And she come up to me. I mean, she must have thought, well, he's an old bloke, but he looks like he probably can still use himself a bit. Like, come up to me and she said, "Sir, would you like a free packet of contraceptives?" You see. And I said to her, well, I said, "Have you got extra large?" And she looked at them and she said, "No," she said, "I think they are all the same size, but they are quite stretchy." And she was like completely straight-faced about it, like as if she...
Hey, Ronnie, that just means you were looking for a free sleeping bag, weren't you, mate? That's all. Do you know, during the Cold War, there was this thing where, just to kind of take the piss out of each other, North Americans ordered some condoms from Russia, and they asked for something like 13 inches long and a big girth and all this kind of stuff. And so they got them back from Russia, and the Russians had stamped medium on them.
But you know what they call a Russian condom, don't you?
No.
A little Red Riding Hood.
Okay.
That's sunk in, yeah. It's sunk in. Anyway,
the non-vegan. What do you call Russian yogurt? Ski. I know that one, but
well, we better get away from the Russian. There might be a Russian person might be listening. They might, do a thing against us. Anyway, sheep.
Yeah, they've all the sheep have been rescued from going to slaughter. We don't have enough land, so we've found an organic farm, and they've got about 90 acres of different sorts of hay, but they can't, because it's organic and where they're being sold to, everything, they can't use pesticides or anything like that. So the only natural fertilizer is from the sheep. So they go over there about 9 months of the year and then come back for us while they cut it all.
That's wonderful. It's so great. Are they coming up for a treat for some food or something there, Roy? In that
they are.
That shop?
We go over about once a fortnight because it's quite away from here. We go over about once a fortnight to see them, take some food up, so we don't forget them, and they don't forget us. More importantly,
they're lovely. They are,
and they'll run over. We've still got. I think we've got 8 at the sanctuary, but they're all old ones and got things that are wrong with them. The other ones are all fine.
That's absolutely
they're coming
lovely.
back in about 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, they are. Well, look at that. Oh, there we are. Pumpkin, was that round pumpkin? Pumpkin day. What is it? Halloween.
It is, yeah. We get quite a lot of pumpkins. People donate to us. Some of the stores donate what's left over, and garden centres and stuff like that. Whoever's got them, donate them to us, and they absolutely love them.
They haven't got very good table manners. I noticed that. The one that's coming up after this is kind of like an advert. You'll have to tell us how you made all that when it comes on, Roy. So this is the last one of the set when it comes on.
We're very, very lucky. We get a lot of really well supported by various companies and that. And one of our volunteers who came in, she's got her own video business. So she came in and did all the filming of this. We just let her get on with it. We've got anything really, from cats, dogs, rabbits, hamsters, guinea pigs, all the way up to. We've only got one horse left now and one pony.
And that was the famous Sherman, wasn't there? The big
the famous Sherman.
It's well worth a visit to the sanctuary to see Sherman. Wonderful.
He's about 19 now, and he should live, if he was in his natural habitat, he should live to about 120.
Oh, right. So, same age as me then, really, he'll be, won't he?
Sorry?
Same age as me he'll be then, Roy.
Yeah.
That's thanks, Bernie. Bernie's made a donation, and we'll talk a little bit about if you want to make a donation to the sanctuary. The best thing to do is go to the sanctuary website, Roy, where there's facilities on there for donating. I don't know whether,
I mean, to answer Sarah's, we're always looking for land round us. Farmers don't want to know. When we first moved in, one of the farmers actually, because he knew we were AR and also vegan, he hung dead birds in all the trees around the sanctuary.
You want to hang in from a tree, Roy, if we get a chance?
Yeah, I know, I'd love to.
Here's a couple of questions for you, Roy. Is there any chance of expanding and getting more land?
that's what we are trying to do. Farmers will not sell to us. I spoke to one last week. He lives up in Durham. He doesn't use the field for anything, but he won't sell it to us. I think it could have had something to do with he rented it out to a sheep farmer who had 31 sheep in there, and some mysteriously disappeared. So when he turned up, there was only about 15.
They kind of moved.
Yeah,
they moved a
we
short
don't know
distance.
where they went.
And what about this? What about this question?
Been bitten by a cat.
Do you keep any of the animals separate, or do they work it out between them? You know, communal areas, I suppose that means, I guess.
Only really the sheep and the goats and the horses that go together. Obviously, the dogs have all got kennels. They've all got state-of-the-art kennels and catteries and rabbit rodent units. So no to answer that. But if like with the birds, we put crows all together. We've had a lot of buzzards in recently. They go separately.
And this one, do you still have parrots? The parrots?
No, all the parrots have now been rehomed.
All right, very good. We've got a few comments about those farmers.
Yeah.
There we are. Terry, a subtle comment there from Terry.
Yeah, and not much different from Wendy from the Animal Rights Show.
Can I make my own statement on here? Like, a good livestock farmer is a dead one.
The thing about is it insulting arseholes though to describe an animal farmer? Because an arsehole has got a use, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, shit comes out of it, so it's the same as them. But you know.
Right, Ronnie, looks like you're back on for the rest of the show.
Back on. Well, what I'm going to do is like talk a bit. I mean, obviously there was a lot of time between when I came out of prison the second time and when I went in the third time. So and a lot of funny stuff happened during that time. So I was talking a little bit about some of that. Where I lived in North London, interesting enough, there was a fur shop just around the corner from me. Because at that time, the fur trade was massively bigger than it is now, and the ALF played a major part in actually destroying the fur trade in this country. But there'd be fur shops everywhere, like and in London, in the suburbs of London, there'd be fur shops, and where I lived, it was just in this little side street round from me. There was a fur shop. And of course, very mysteriously, the window of this fur shop kept getting broken, you see. And
terrible.
Anyway, I went every time I went past, I thought I can't resist this. Looking around for a stone, and because on the way to the underground station, you see, unfortunately for the fur shop owner. And anyway, I went there one day, and I thought, I've got time to have a go. Like, picked up a stone, and oh, there's Louis. You can see just behind me. You've got to be careful of Louis because they've gone for their food now. He has a nibble, Louis. Yeah, he has a bit of a nibble, Louis. Anyway, so I thought, and his car was parked outside the fur shop. You see, notice he had quite a posh car. This guy. So I thought, I'll have a go. I went to throw a stone through the fur shop window. It span out of my hand. I thought, oh shit! But what it did was, it hit the windscreen of his car, broke the car windscreen, and bounced off the car windscreen and went through the window of the fur shop.
Excellent.
So it's like 2 in 1, you know, and then I just scarpered off down the corner. It was dam busters, yeah. It's like, what a shot, you know. Totally by accident. But that closed down in the end, that fur shop, you know, like the only fur shops now, the only actual kind of high street fur shops now are in London, and only in I think in one part of London. The only department store now in the whole country that's got a fur department is Harrods, and a lot of that really was to do with the ALF really waged war against the fur trade from the kind of, I suppose, the early to mid 80s onwards, and it really did have a devastating effect. Of course, fur farming in this country is banned. It was banned in the early 2000s. But fur can still be imported, unfortunately, and so you still get some places sell fur on their garments. Places like Canada Goose and flannels, and people demonstrate against those. But the actual.
I've got a short shop fur story. The do you remember those kind of catapults you used to get with the wire thing? So you could really kind of wow. So
yeah.
In Romford, the window of the fur shops were really going in frequently, and so they all started putting shutters, fitting these shutters and everything.
Yeah.
So we went to this sports shop trying to see if we can buy a crossbow of all things. And we were going. Do you think this will go through a little bit of metal kind of thing and all that? And he goes, yeah, it might go through some metal. And one of the people there went, what about people? Would it go through?
I love it.
Yeah, so we didn't buy anything. Funny enough, he wasn't interested after that. So.
He wouldn't sell it. Somebody made a gaff there, didn't they?
Yeah, right.
Go through metal. My dad had a crossbow. There was a couple of blokes he didn't like, so he used to keep a crossbow in his car, my dad. And I said, we got that for you. If I see either of these blokes, I'm going to shoot them with a crossbow. I said, you'll get, do you know you'll get life in prison? He said, I don't give a fuck. Whether he would have done, really. But what I managed actually to persuade him to donate his crossbow to the ALF. Because I thought it'd be handy to shoot if you couldn't get into a compound where there were vehicles that could use it. It was this particular group. They could use it to shoot out the tires. My dad's passed away now, so he can't be done for conspiracy to murder or anything like that. Possessing an offensive weapon. But he had a crossbow. I think he thought he was William Tell. He used to go round, put the William Tell overture on his car cassette thing and drive round looking for these blokes around Gloucester with his crossbow. But anyway, so hopefully that because they heard from this group they wanted to do something to these vehicles in a compound and they couldn't get in there. I thought maybe they shoot the tyres out or something with a crossbow, and so hopefully that was put to good use. But yeah, another funny thing. I had a good friend called Mick, and Mick passed away many years ago. He was a vegan. He'd been vegan longer than me, and we used to work together. We were both on the dole, and we needed a bit of extra money, so we kind of advertised, I think, in a local paper, saying, because he was very good at building work and that, and he was banned from driving because he'd been in a car chase with the police for some reason. He got banned. So I was the driver and he was the person that kind of knew what he was doing with the building work, repair work and that. So we advertised in the paper, and we got offered a job by this landlord that owned all these properties, you see. And he kind of knew that we were working sort of off the card. So the reason he wanted us, because he knew he could pay us less than what he'd pay a normal company. So we kind of worked for this guy. And what we discovered one day, he wanted us to do some work one morning, and we said, well, we can't do work for you this particular morning because we've got a bit of signing to do, if you understand what I mean. Then we had to go and sign on. And he said, oh, well, quite understandable. He was signing on as well. He owned all these properties. He was signing on the dole, and we hated him. We thought, well, it's one thing for us to sign on. We know we're quite poor, but him, and because we hated him anyway, and that made us hate him anymore, you see. So what we used to do, because we used to go around, he owned all these flats, and he'd get these calls saying, oh, the roof was leaking or the sink was broken or something. We'd go around there, suss out what needed to be done, and then we'd tell him, oh, they need a new sink or they need new tiles on the roof. And he'd go, no, that's too expensive. Can't you put a bit of filler in the sink? Or can't you do something else to the roof? He never wanted to pay any money out, and we always ended up having to kind of bodge things up, you see. And, he'd say to us, if you get obviously we needed materials to do the repairs. So, give him the receipt, he'd give us money. But what we used to do, we got our own book of receipts printed or something. We made up a company, and it was called TTN Supplies, and TTN stood for through the nose, you see. And we had this thing, and what we did was we used to go on building sites and say to the builders, have you got, we need a bit of this or a bit of that, have you got any spare? And they'd give us some, and we'd slip them a couple of bobs, get it really cheap, and then we'd write a receipt out for it for like 10 times more, and we'd say, give it to the landlord, and we'd get this money off him. And then another time we discovered he had this in one of the houses that, we discovered he had this store underneath this house. He had this store of all this equipment, electrical equipment, electric fires, and all different things. Right? What we done? We took it all. We went down. We sold it down the second-hand shop. Got the money because we thought he's not paying us enough, so we'll get money out of him. So some way.
You squeezed it out in the end.
We squeezed him out. So anyway, we need it. But one other funny thing was he wanted us to do. He had squeaky floorboards on the landing of his house. He lived in this posh house in North London, and he said, "Oh boys, I want you to come round and I can't stand the squeaking on the when I'm walking across the landing floor. You see." So we looked at it, and Mick said what it needs like a board put on top of the floorboards to kind of even it out a bit, and that'll reduce the squeaking, you see. So anyway, we got this board, and Mick was hammering it in, and we didn't realise that there was pipes underneath the floor, water pipes, very close, and the nails went through the water pipes, and like all the water started running down, across the ceiling down into the hole. And this guy, this Mr. Phelps, his name was, the landlord, he had all these plaques, all these big plaques, all on the wall in his going down the stairs and in his hallway. And he'd come running in the hallway going, "Boys, what's happening, boys? All this water in my house, all the water, you see." And anyway, what happened is water loosened, whatever it was holding one of these big plaques up, it loosened it. It only fell on his head, didn't knock him out. He was lying. We were pissing ourselves. He was lying in the hall. We'd been knocked out with this thing. And anyway, we had to turn the water off, get the floorboards up, mend the pipes. We managed to do it all, and repair it all. But anyway,
and you do that with the pipes, Ronnie? You just put some sellotape around it, I suppose, did you?
yeah. We put a bit of chewing gum, some bit of chewing. No, I don't know. We got some stuff, filler stuff, and did it. But what we used to do is a lot of these people were students, students. And we go around there, and they'd say, "Oh, he's a pervert. That bloke you work for, a pervert." We said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Oh, he likes being spanked. He's always trying to get people to spank him. He's asking, he's offering us money and that." And we said, "Well, he's never said anything to us. Never said anything to us about that, see." But anyway, we stopped working for him eventually. And then a little bit later, I lived with some friends. They bought a flat off him. It was one of his flats, and they bought it off him. And but the other 4 flats in the building still belonged to him. And I was there one day, and there was a knock on the door. I opened the door. He was at the door. He'd come round to the other flats to collect rent, and he going, "Oh, hello, Ronnie. How are you getting on?" and all that. So I thought I better invite him in for a cup of tea. I invited him for a cup of tea. He started talking, and he started saying to me, he said, Ronnie, are you interested in amateur dramatics? And I said, "Well, no, not really, Mr. Phelps. No." He said, "Only I'm putting on a play, and I'd like you to star in the play." I said, "Well, I don't know whether I'm in." He said, "Let me tell you a bit about the play." He said, "What it is, it's 2 brothers. There's 2 brothers. There's a younger brother and an older brother." He said, "And the younger brother is a very, very naughty boy. And the older brother has to discipline the younger brother." And he said, "And I'm looking for someone to play the part of the older brother." And I thought you would be able to. And obviously I thought, I know what's going to happen. You're going to be the younger brother. I'm going to be older brother. You was inviting me to spank him, you see. So I'd start saying, no, how can I get this bloke out of the flat? You know what I mean? But he's a great big bloke. He was a great fat bloke.
Probably Conservative MP, Ronnie.
So, he quite likely. I mean, they're in because my local Tory MP, he was involved in this thing. Mark Garnier, his name is, and he was involved in this thing about buying sex toys. He got his secretary to buy sex toys. I don't know whether people remember. It was a couple of years ago. He was all in the paper for it. He got, but I mean, he's because I put on Facebook. If only he's voted, everything he's voted for in Parliament has been so bad. I wish he'd just stuck to the sex toys. But did you guys receive much mail?
Let's finish with a prison thing.
We'll finish with a prison thing because we've spoken about the dodgy landlord. But there's more, obviously more stories from in prison and before prison. And Roger's going to have some more prison stories as well because he was eventually sadly put back in prison, weren't you, Roger? So we're going to have another Jailhouse Vegan series episode soon for another sanctuary.
We'll have to do another one. Just in relation to what Amber's saying there, I used to get about 7 or 8, maybe 10 a day letters and stuff. Yeah. Which I mean, they were a lifesaver, because you used to read them, word for word, really slowly, and kind of drink them in, kind of thing. And I used to get a lot of posters. And I once got a poster from, I think it's called Rainbow, the character called Zippy, right? And somebody had written on the poster of Zippy, Roger, please get out of jail soon, all spelt wrong, right? And this other con came down and he's looking and he's going, oh, you got a letter from Zippy. He's going,
yeah, it really just. But I did. I mean, I had my cell in one of the prisons I was in Long Lartin. My whole every square inch of my walls and ceiling was covered with posters and pictures that people had sent in.
And toothpaste. Did you use toothpaste to stick them onto the wall? Right?
Yeah, I think so. You have to kind of I think you did because you couldn't really get glue. Yeah. But the unfortunate thing was we were getting all these letters. I mean, I think in prison there was supposed to be a restriction on how many letters you could receive, but they tended not really to enforce it, which was good because you're only meant to get like 1 a day or something, 2 a day. It wasn't meant to get all those many. But one thing that they kind of did enforce a lot more was how many you could write, and so it varied. I remember one prison I was in, you could only write 2 letters a week. So obviously we're getting all these letters sent in, and you could it was really difficult to choose. I mean, I ended up writing to just to close friends and family because you just couldn't write to everyone that sent letters in. But it was, I mean, it did help to I think keep our spirits up, didn't it? Getting all these letters from people.
You never thought about writing to several people and put it all in one envelope and getting other people to send them on, no?
Well, what would happen in the normal situation in prison? They have a censor, somebody called a censor, who kind of opens when the letters come in. They open the letters, and I think the primary thing they're looking for is are there drugs in the letter? And sometimes they'll read a bit of the letter as well. And then what would happen is when you sent the letter out, you had to leave it unsealed, and the censor would look in the letter and maybe have a bit of a read of it. You know what I mean? And so you kind of you really couldn't have done that. You couldn't really have written letters to several people in one because they'd have discovered it. Occasionally, you could bribe somebody that was on an outside working party. You could bribe them to smuggle out a letter and put it in, post it in a post box. I mean, you'd have to somehow get a stamp for it from somewhere. And then, if there was something that you didn't want the prison authorities to read, because there's always a risk of them reading the letters, of course. And I did that. I kind of did that on 1 or 2 occasions where I bribed some post a letter for you. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it very often. So you were restricted in what you could send out, unfortunately.
Well, on that hilarious note, Ronnie, we'll close down. So it looks like we've got at least one more show to go. So you're going to have to have the job of picking another sanctuary, Ronnie.
Yes, we'll have to have a think about that. But I think we need to kind of emphasise how people can donate to animals in need.
Yes.
It's and animals-in-need.org, isn't it, Roy?
It is, yeah.
The website. It's in the description of this video, because obviously, hopefully, lots of people will watch this, the recording of this, as well as it'll be there as a recording for people to watch, and hopefully, lots will watch that. It's in the description. People go to the website. It's easy to see how to donate, and hopefully, lots of people will give lots of money, because there's lots of animals there that need help. And obviously, the more money you get, the more you can do, isn't it, Roy? No.
Yeah, it definitely is. It costs a lot of money to run it.
And we've still got almost 30 people watching. So smash a like, as they say in podcast.
Yeah, it's good that so many people have managed to survive
on the video.
Yeah, so 30 people have managed to survive to the end of the show.
They did, yeah.
I mean, how they are mentally, of course, is a totally different matter, isn't it? Really.
Well, they're all vegans, so
they're all vegans, so survive. But please, so, and the other thing is like, help animals in need. And the other thing that I want everyone to do as well, because it's very difficult with these shows, sort of choosing which sanctuaries to kind of. I mean, first of all, we concentrating on vegan-run sanctuaries for a start, and that obviously narrows it down a bit. But there's loads of vegan-run sanctuaries now. At one time, you couldn't find sanctuaries run by vegans, but now there's like loads of sanctuaries run by vegans. A lot more sanctuaries are rescuing farmed animals now as well, which is good. So and we obviously can't cover every single sanctuary. So what I'd like people to do is think about, everyone's got sanctuaries local to them, and as well as giving something to animals in need, look into how you can help your local sanctuary as well, because they're all. Every single one's in sort of desperate need of financial help, aren't they, at the moment, because of the COVID and not being able to do fundraising. So please help your locals, help animals in need, and help your local sanctuaries as well.
Indeed. And thanks for coming along, Roy, and mastering the technology.
He's up to the level of Bill Gates already.
Yeah. So keep up the good work, and say hello to Alf at least for me. And,
hello to Alf and Sherman and all the others, and hopefully it won't be too long before.
We'll do.
Roger, but it's
You'll
a
have
bit
to
further.
come down sometime.
Roger will have to come over from Ireland and visit. It's not. I mean, it's a bit of a trek for me, but it's like a couple of hours away from me. But I'm able to get there.
Roy, we'll have you back, and you can tell us names of all those pigeons.
You've got to learn every single name and come back. Yeah, and spend the whole show telling everyone. We'll put all the pictures up and see how you do. And people can donate, can't they? However many you get, that might be a good fundraiser.
There's a recommendation for you, Ronnie. Huglets. Only 2 people run an amazing.
Yeah, I think Huglets would be. Yeah. I've actually been thinking about Huglets. I've been thinking about Huglets because one is that Wanda.
Yeah.
Huglets. Yeah.
Isn't that where Harry Potter went? Wasn't it? Huglets. Oh, look, a cultural reference. These old guys.
Harry Potter. Who's Harry Potter? I never heard of him. Who's that?
The cultural reference these old guys don't get. Right, we're going to go, folks. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. See you next time.
See ya.